Welcome. In this lesson, I'm going to show you what modal mixture is and how you can use it and how it sounds super cool. So modal mixture is, or modal borrowing, it's often called, is this idea of taking a tonality and let's say we're in a major key. Let's say we're in this key of C major. And you have 7 notes in the scale of C major, and then there's a chord for each of those notes, the chord that's built off of each of those. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes, and then you have a chord off of each of those. So we can call that the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 chord, and the 7 chord of that key. This is very common terminology. If you heard of saying like a 2-5-1 progression, that's the 2nd chord of the key, the 5 chord of the key, and then to the 1 chord of the key. So if you have all of those chords, you're in one tonality or you're in one modal sound, even if it's just a major key. And then there are modes that you can say are parallel modes, where you're changing the type of key and type of tonality that it is, but keeping the same root. Okay, so there's a lot of ways to explain this and all kinds of theory things to explain modes in general. And if some of that you don't get, that's fine. I'm actually just going to show you right to like what modal mixture is. So using the same root, we'll create what's called a parallel mode, but we'll say a different type of key off that same root. So the most common is major and minor. So just like a major key and a minor key. So we already talked about C major. So then, okay, well then what about C minor? So C minor has its own scale. We'll say the C natural minor scale. And then there's a chord built off of each of those notes as well. So now we have C major and all its chords and C minor and all its chords. And modal mixture or modal borrowing is mixing them together or borrowing as freely as you want between those two. So you have all your chords available from C major, all your chords available from C minor, and you can use any of them. And that's what you're doing. You're mixing them together, you're borrowing them. It gives you all these other colors to work with. So it's great for songwriting. If you're songwriting, you're like, well, what other chords could I use? Well, you just have suddenly this whole other palette to work with if you think of the parallel minor, if you're in a major key, or the parallel major if you're in a minor key. And actually it works with other modes as well. So you could say, what are the chords from the mixolydian, the parallel mixolydian, or the parallel Lydian, or the parallel Phrygian, or something like that. But most common and most traditionally it would be used just with major and minor. So let's walk through it. If I take the note C, I'm going to do things along the 5th string here just to do it kind of in a linear path, but you can certainly use your open string chords to do this as well. So you can say, oh, my C chord, my D minor chord in this way, my E minor chord, my F chord, G or G. So I'm going to do it here, and we need to know the scale really well. And I say this in so many videos because it's just like gonna be so useful all the time. And if someone doesn't know it, I want to always say it. And that's just the structure of the major scale being 7 notes, where 3 and 4 are a half step apart, and then 7 and 1 are a half step apart, and everything else is a whole step apart. So it's just I think the best way to think of a scale structure. Much better, I think, than saying whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole. You're just looking at what's next, instead of, oh, I'm seeing, oh, there's 7 notes and these 2 are next to each other. You kind of have more of a bird's eye view when you think of it this way. So if we play C, this 3rd fret on the 5th string, as 1, and then you have 2 whole step up, 3 whole step up, 4 half step up, 5 is a whole step up, 6 is a whole step up, 7 is a whole step up. There's 1. Okay, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so then there's a chord off of each of those. Okay, so off the 1 chord is major, off the 4 chord is major, and off the 5 chord is major. So 1, 4, 5. That's like our Louis progression. Major, major, major. 1, 4, 5. Okay. Everything else is minor except for the 7th chord is diminished. Okay, so, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 and 5 we already said are major, 6 is minor, 7 is diminished, which is a minor chord, and you take the 5th note of the minor chord and you flat it, and you get that. Back to 1. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here's 7 again, here's 6 again, here's 7, here's 1. So that's all of them. If I make a little progression from it, okay, so just playing around, I played the 1 chord, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 5. Now I feel like going to 6, but I went back to 1 before. Okay, so those are your chords in a major key. Now, minor key. Minor key is going to be a different scale structure. 1, 2 is the same. Flat 3 instead of normal 3, so the 3 is flatted. 4 is the same as major scale. 5 is the same as a major scale. Flat 6 instead of a normal 6. Flat 7 instead of a normal 7. 1, 1, flat 7, flat 6, 5, 4, flat 3, 2, 1. We hear it as that minor sound. Flat 7, 1. Okay? Then chords off of each of those. Well, we said 1, 4, and 5 are major in the last one. Well, 1, 4, and 5 are minor in the minor key. So that's a nice way to think of it. 1, 4, 5 are minor when you're in the minor key, and they're major when you're in the major key. 1, 4, 5. Now that diminished chord is 2 this time. It's the second chord, so everything else is major. Okay? I know it's a lot of information. I'm just kind of throwing it at you. I mainly want to talk about this concept and have you hear it. But I want to walk through all these details in case you want to get filled in a little bit on that. So minor, diminished, flat 3 chord is major, 4 chord is minor, we said that, 5 chord is minor, we said that, flat 6 chord is major, flat 7 chord is major, almost played a major chord there, which would be modal mixture, but minor, 1 chord, flat 7 major, flat 6 major, 5, 4, flat 3 is major, 2 is diminished, 1. Cool, here's that sound. If I do a little progression with it, even if you just go up and down kind of. It's like the All Along the Watchtower progression. One minor, flat 7 major, flat 6 major, flat 7. Okay, so just getting used to playing around with those. By the way, the voicings I'm doing here, I just love playing with these. It's so kind of clear to do it linear like this along a string. I have 1 of each chord, 5 of each chord, and then the 3rd of each chord. 1 of each chord on the 5th string, 5 of each chord on the 4th string, and the 3rd of each chord on the 2nd string. So, okay, now that we know those, in both of those keys, once you kind of see those, then you can start to mix them up, and that's what modal mixture is. Let's do a couple examples. So let's start with major. So I just went 1, 4, 5, 6. There's flat 6 major. There's my 5 from major. There's 4 from major. Now I'm going to take 4 from minor and go back to 1. So much color, so much texture. I'll do that again. 1, 4, 5. I'm going to go to 6. 6. 6 from the minor key. 5 from the major key. 4 from the major key. 4 from the minor key. Okay, that minor 4 chord is very common. It's a really common one. Here's a really cool sound. If you take that, was a little intonation there. If you take that 2nd chord from the minor key, I love that from the 1. So 1 major, 2 from the minor key diminished. And here's a common thing: if we take the flat 6 major, flat 7, sorry, wrong place there. Here's the establish the key again. Minor key, flat 6 major, flat 7 major, and then land on a major chord. That's like often thought of as what is done in the Mario sequence when you beat a level. And great, so mix match all you want, borrow back and forth all you want. Examples of this are all over the place. If we think of the song Creep, I'll do everything in this key. So Creep is 1, plays a major 3 chord, which is not modal borrowing, it's something else. It's borrowed. This is Creep by Radiohead. It's a different type of going out of the key, but it's the 3 chord instead of minor, but as major. So it's not modal borrowing. But then we go to the 4 chord, and then we go minor 4 chord, back to 1. And that minor 4 chord was borrowing. It can be taken from other minor scales. It doesn't have to be the natural minor scale. So a lot of times it's actually drawing from the melodic minor scale. That's really, I think more common depending on the melodic material that's going on at the time. But either way, same concept, same idea. It's taking it from some other type of key, some other type of scale. So melodic minor is also really common that it's borrowing from not just C natural minor, but C melodic minor. And a couple things are just slightly different about that is all. So that minor 4 chord is really common. In Blackbird, it's also using modal mixture sounds quite a bit. Those aren't. It's just doing a chromatic thing. That's definitely a modal borrowing aspect. You could think of it as the 4 major and then 4 minor, but in different inversions. But here's a version that you'll see and appreciate. So it goes 4, 4 minor, moving on. All kinds of stuff. Was Paul McCartney thinking modal mixture? Probably not. No, just kind of hearing things. But theory is also always after the fact, right? Someone does it and they're finding sounds they want and making something interesting, and then we can say, oh, here's kind of what's happening tonally. It's drawing from this key for a second. It's borrowing from this place, and so knowing the theory of it is powerful to then experiment and find new sounds for yourself. If we maybe wouldn't have heard that naturally. So that's it. That's the idea of modal mixture. Just knowing that and knowing a couple of those, even just saying, hey, I can turn the 4 chord into minor. It also prompts you to think, hey, am I even thinking of 1 chords, 4 chords, 5 chords, 3 chords, the numbers? If not, it could be very helpful to start to try to get used to that, because then if you do know you're on a 4 chord and say, hey, I could turn this minor, and then go back to the 1, and it's going to have that moody flavor to it that, if you like that, or just knowing a sound is a certain thing, and identifying it with a label is very powerful, because you can be that much quicker to grab it when you know what you're kind of looking for or wanting to express in the future. So especially for being creative in songwriting, but even if you don't want to make up your own stuff, seeing this stuff, hearing this stuff, identifying it, very powerful for learning songs quicker, retaining them longer, having a better sense of maybe why it makes you feel something so you can express it and perform it, all of these things. So that's what modal mixture is, a little example of it on C major. Practice it with that if you feel like it. Otherwise, just do it anywhere you're comfortable with and start playing around with it. So hope you found that useful, and I hope to see you in another lesson in the future, and happy practicing.